What's up? I got a quick video here for an interesting case study of a nation, a tiny Polynesian island called Nauru. Let's check it out.
Nauru, located in the middle of the vast waters of the Pacific Ocean and appearing just as a tiny dot on the map, this is the least visited country in the world. Even the closest countries are thousands of kilometers away from. Nauru is surrounded by massive coral reefs, preventing large ships from approaching the shore. Until recently, the locals on this isolated island had so much wealth that they didn't even know what to do with it. Once reaching phosphate deposits in 1975, Nauru became the country with the highest GDP per capita in the world. Today, however, in these destroyed lands where no vegetables and fruits can grow, processed and fatty foods have become the norm. Topping global charts, Nauru is recognized by the World Obesity Federation as the world's most...
So that's the setup. We have an isolated little country that used to be the richest country in the world and now is the fattest country in the world. What happened to this country?
In 1899, German geologist Albert Ellis discovered that this plateau had high-quality phosphate reserves. Once as valuable as gold, phosphate is a raw material boosting productivity in agriculture, and during the First World War, Australia quickly annexed and turned Nauru into an overseas mining field. Except for Japan's brief occupation in 1942.
Okay, this little island had a bunch of valuable resources on it, and a German discovered that. Then the Australians took it over in World War I, and the Japanese took it over in World War II.
After gaining independence, Nauru obtained significant wealth, and many Naurans whose lands would be used for phosphate mining quitted their job and began counting down the days to become millionaires. Thousands of workers from China and other Pacific islands were brought to work in the dirty, hot, and tough conditions of...
Aha, so after gaining independence, they changed nothing. They continued to strip mine their island. The locals themselves chose to continue to mine out these resources, and they brought in other Asians to come and do the work for them.
To phosphate mines. Nauru had a per capita income of around $176,000 by the year 1975, whereas in the world's leading economy, the United States had around $44,000, taking into account today's inflation rates. Nauru managed to establish a welfare state where there were no taxes. Education, transportation, healthcare services, and even housing were all provided.
Isn't this the liberal utopia? Isn't this what we are all supposed to be wanting for every country in the entire world? To have enough money per capita that we can just have the government give us free stuff, right? A welfare state of education, transportation, healthcare services, and housing, all for free. Just free money, free stuff. Isn't that what we're all fighting for right now? Well, these people had it. Let's see what they did with it.
Free of charge.
I've seen my grandma come out of the bank with the pillowcase. They put all their money inside and just walk out with the money.
Literally pillowcases full of money.
Spend it all up.
They spent it all up.
I heard that there was a police officer who bought a Lamborghini, but he realized that he did not fit into the car and dumped it.
They were literally buying Lamborghinis and dumping them on the side of the road. Don't believe me? Here, check this out.
Is it true?
Yes, that's true.
As Naurans suddenly became wealthy, a frenzy of consumption overtook them, and this small island was filled with the latest car models. Along the roadside, we came across a collection of abandoned luxury cars from the past: Cadillacs, Jeeps, Land Rovers. These are just a few of the vehicles that the island residents once used for speed and amusement.
This is capitalism. This is liberal democracy. This is globalism. This is what we are all supposed to be striving for. To get enough money to give everybody money so that the peasants have Lamborghinis. And then here on this island, we can see where it ends. It ends with the peasants dumping their Lamborghinis on the side of the road. And 50 years later, nobody has cleaned it up. They spent up all the money, dumped the waste of their Range Rovers on the side of the road, and they have nothing to show for it but trash. They have trashed their island, they've trashed their environment, their society, everything. They've got the fattest society, unhealthy society. Everything is gone to crap because they got everything they ever wanted. We have no meaning in the modern world. We have no purpose. Liberalism sucks out everything. The Industrial Revolution sucks out the meaning of life, the spirit of life, and gives you empty, metal, rusting carcasses of $200,000 sports cars from the 1970s. This is the world we are supposed to be striving for. This is the world that our children go to Ivy League universities and pay $5,000 per month in rent at New York City so they can get a taste of. This is the world that we are all subject to. And Nauru is a great example of what happens when a small country gets exactly what we're all supposed to be striving for. Infinite money, wealth. Where does it lead without Christ, without purpose, without a soul? What does this give you?
It's almost like a car graveyard here. The layer of rust on them indicates how distant the days of glory are. Ever since I got here, the natives have been warning me to watch out for the packs of stray pit bulls roaming around the road. Once a popular breed, some islanders eagerly adopted these dogs and left them.
Why do you have pit bulls? Out of everything in modernity, they couldn't get away from even the pit bulls in their society. In this remote Pacific island, they even have a pit bull problem.
On the island, influenced by the monsoon winds seasonally, rain and time flow as one. However, now relaxed in rivers or streams, islanders have limited access to fresh water. The country produces 2 million liters of drinking water daily by treating ocean water using reverse osmosis at these desalination plants. There is an underground lake named Mokoavel. Finding the entrance to this cave without the help of a local is challenging as its entrance is quite narrow. During times of war, the people of Nauru use this place both as a shelter and to access drinking water. It's filled with cans and pieces of glass.
I think here we see that this society just was not ready for modernity. These people were not ready for the technology that they were given by the rest of the world. And this has been a problem with many populations across the globe, as the Europeans primarily brought advanced technology to the rest of the world. And there are people who have just not the constitution or the disposition to live in a way that can maintain that level of technology. These people have all this glass and plastic, and it's in their drinking supply. They no longer have a reliable supply of drinking water because they've dumped garbage in it. You know, in a previous era, they would have no non-biodegradable waste to dump there. They could dump their banana peels wherever they wanted, and it wouldn't ruin their drinking supply. But they were given plastic, and then they literally don't have the cultural constitution to find it within themselves to clean up their drinking water or clean up the cars on the side of the road. They just are not, as a people, interested in doing that. All people are not the same.
By the 1970s, the Nauru government realized that their phosphate reserves ending, and they mirrored oil-rich Middle Eastern nations by investing in overseas properties, including Nauru House in Melbourne, Nauru Tower in Hawaii, Pacific Star Hotel in Guam, Pacific House in Washington, the Grand Pacific Hotel in Fiji, and many more. However, corruption and mismanagement put the government into a deficit of millions of dollars per year.
Okay, I'm sure this is going to shock you, but the government wasted all their money as well. It wasn't just the peasants, it was everybody on the island. They had bought all of those valuable real estate properties. It seems like they were well invested, but literally 20 years later, this is from the 70s to the 90s, 20 years later, they're in a deficit of millions of dollars per year. This tiny island with 10,000 people on it is losing millions of dollars per year.
Throughout the 1990s, and the savings from the phosphate quickly went up in smoke. In an effort to sustain its welfare, the government aimed to turn the country into a tax haven and got involved in a
Okay, what are they trying to do here? They're trying to save their welfare program. They've been giving everybody on the island free stuff because we're so rich, right? We just have infinite money. And so what are we going to do? We have to keep going. We've spent it all up, but we have to keep going. We have to keep our welfare going. Let's get criminal.
Cartels, the Russian mafia, and organizations like Al-Qaeda. Nauru issued license to over 400 foreign banks under a system that didn't require branching and allowed optional records. As a result of international pressures, the country put an end to illegal offshore banking activities and has been compelled to use a cash-based economy since 2000.
They're not even allowed to have credit cards anymore. They got so criminal trying to salvage being rich that now they can't even use a credit card. They're not allowed to have a credit card. The entire international community slapped them in the face and said, no, you have to use cash because you've been so dishonest with your money.
52% of the population lives at or below the poverty line and tries to survive on aid from the church.
So they have no more welfare. They have no more phosphate. They can't grow fruits and vegetables on their own land because they've strip mined their only little island. 50% are either at or below poverty level, and they try to survive on the church. They go to the Christians who are charitable and say, hey, please help us. Please give us some money. That's how far they fell in 30 years. They got their independence in the 60s. So 30 years into the 90s, 40 years until the 2000s, and it all been gone. They went from the richest country in the world to literally nothing in 40 years because they had no impulse control. They were corrupt. They just burned through the money. And this entire country has lived the example of what our entire world is trying to do. Just get rich quick, hold on to as much as you can, and burn through it. Buy a Lamborghini.
Nauru agreed to accept unwanted refugees from Australia in exchange for financial support in 2001. Around 1,000 refugees, mostly of Afghan, Iraqi.
It just gets better. It just gets better. Now we have the refugees. This tiny little island couldn't escape even that particular horror of modernity. They have to live through everything. Now they get Afghani and Irani refugees on their island for their
and Iranian
sins.
descent were transported to Nauru and detained for an indefinite period. On the top side, 3 refugee camps were established. People were forced to stay in plastic tents for years under the scorching sun without regular access to clean water. Many tried to escape from inhuman, miserable conditions and uncertain future by ending their lives. The ones who suffered the most from this situation were the children, who made up the majority of the camps. Australia was spending an average of $550 million each year to maintain
Why is Australia spending $550 million per year to put Afghanis in Nauru? What is this globalism? Why are the Australians that financially invested in Afghani refugees? Is it because they had already taken them into Australia and so they had to get rid of them? Why did they take them into Australia in the first place? Why don't they just dump them back in Afghanistan? Why don't they put them somewhere else and stop paying for it?
camps. In other words, the Nauru government made a profit of $500,000 for each refugee held captive on the island.
Oh, so the local government gets to profit off of these little plastic tents that I'm sure did not cost $500,000 per person. Is this another money laundering scheme? Is this just legal scamming between the elites of Australia and Nauru and whoever else? Is this NGO scams?
As I tried to get to these hidden areas, suddenly barricades appeared in my way. They had blocked all the roads leading to the camps located in the 3 different spots in the top side. I found a way to shoot from the outside. For around 2 decades, these camps became the scene of numerous individuals losing their lives due to medical negligence, accidents, and taking one's own life. Recent reports indicate that these places are now completely empty. However, the locals have no specific knowledge about this matter. Currently, Nauru is counting down the days.
Okay, so there's probably even people still there. Nobody cares. There's Afghanis on this island in the Pacific Ocean. Nobody cares. We just move on with our lives. And now, okay, yeah, some deep sea mining. That'll be good. Let's do some more strip mining. We're good at that.
To engage in deep-sea mining in collaboration with the Canada-based metals company. Their plan is to extract polymetallic stones that only grew a few millimeters per million years.
Okay, I can't take any more of this. I think you get the picture. They have not learned their lesson. They're going to do the same exact thing as much as they possibly can. Let's strip mine the ocean now with Canada for rare metals so that we can continue to destroy the world on the path to the same hell that we are currently living in. I just love this country because it's a great example of what would happen if we got exactly what we wanted. Because I think America and every other modern nation is looking at trying to get exactly what happened in Nauru, to the people in Nauru. Just get a bunch of money, right? Just get as rich as possible. Then we'll have free stuff, free healthcare, free housing. Everything will be free. That's the best, right? That's the future. Then everybody can be happy. Universal basic income. But it's hell. It turns into hell. It doesn't last very long anyways. We're not going to get as far as Nauru did because we're never going to have enough money to offer all of that stuff to the 350 million people in America. But the truer, deeper issue here is that nobody is happy. You don't actually get more happy when you dump a Lamborghini on the side of the road and watch it rust for 40 years. In fact, it's actually just depressing. It's just depressing. Living a purposeful life submitted to Christ is what makes you happy. It's that irony, it's the paradox that suffering and work makes people happier. Not just laying around on an island on the beach and trashing it with your excess wealth. We think that's what we want. We save up so that we can retire and live on infinite cruises, but that's not going to make you happy. That didn't make these islanders happy. And also, it's completely unsustainable. All you're going to do is destroy the planet in your hedonistic, utopian, evil dreams. I hope this type of living dies a swift death. It has not died yet, not in my lifetime, but I see in the future some, on the left and the right, beginning to hate this kind of thing and know and feel in their bones that this is not the life that we were made to live.